But what I think is something that we really haven't seen much is what's happening pre-purchase. And I think like we have the stores being this black box of, yeah, the customers go in, they interact with your brand, they interact with your product, they interact with your sales associates, but we don't know about it. Beside the interaction with the product, what is very interesting is the context, the why, the what, the who, being able to understand what is the context of what people are doing, what are they liking. And so to click into that, it's what are people shopping for? What occasions? What moments of their life? Who do they want to be? Who are they shopping for? Um, what are they trying on? Of those things that they're trying on, what did they like? What did they not like? And why? Look, I think like especially with GenAI, we really need to make sure with both GenAI and with customer data. The number one thing is to not be creepy, right? You gotta be normal. It's really important to tell people what you're doing and to ask them for their consent and be clear and straightforward and explain to them what is the value exchange. At the end of the day, technology is to augment and to enhance what is already experienced by humans, right? And so when we think of the store and this replacement of the store, should we have like, you know, virtual 3D rooms and no physical store or no interaction with people, all of that? It's not really the direction that I see the store of the future being, because I think the store of the future is how do we enhance this human interaction and this physical interaction of the product. So I was at New Order a while ago now, but before that, I actually was working for La Moda in Russia, which is basically the Zalando of Russia. So I think a lot of people are familiar with that concept. In Russia, we did have a lot of very different use cases for customer journey. It was a very interesting market actually to work in. All the geographical differences of the markets were quite interesting in terms of problems, in terms of ideas and solutions of what we had to integrate in terms of different tools. But then yes, so New Order is based in LA, and I joined them to um, open up Europe. So I was their first non-US hire, and it was just a blast. It's a really really great company, and it was really interesting being able to work with retailers out here, scale up the region, pre-acquisition, and really think about how is Europe a very different market from the US. But then, as you got it right, I left to join Farfetch. Um, and really lead the partnership with Chanel, which was a partnership rooted in omnichannel innovation. So looking at how do we leverage the stores in the relationship with the clients for an ecosystem of a brand that is very one-to-one, where there's a big relationship between retailers, between sales associates and the clients. What is the future of that? How can we leverage our physical footprint? And after this, I worked on the connected retail solutions for Farfetch. So leading up the effort of what does that mean to have a clienteling solution and the link between online and offline for marketplace, where obviously Farfetch, I don't know if people know that, actually I say obviously, but that's kind of rude. People might not know that Farfetch is a marketplace which gets its supply from many many boutiques across the world that are luxury boutiques, but also luxury brands across the world, so those brands having retail stores. So one of the initial thoughts of Jose Neves and Sandrine Devaux when she joined was, hey, well, part of our USP is going to think about store of the future, and how do we use technology to enhance the experience of the customers, and to help the sales associates, and what is the role of the store within this digital experience, and one thing leading to another, like the initial Store of the Future solution had been developed, then it was rolled out to Browns, then we did the work for Chanel, and we worked with Tom Browns as well.
And I guess this is also here where you had the opportunity within this context to explore interactive mirrors and in
Yeah,
stores and other type of endless aisle or sorry, omni-channel type of experiences.
you're completely right. I think that that's what's so interesting, and that's what Farfetch has been, for a very long time, an extremely attractive space place in a destination in the market, not only from a customer standpoint, but also from an employee brand standpoint, from a partner standpoint, because the richness of the Farfetch platform was extremely unique. It was the best in class innovator within retail. That there is no doubt.
So we established that Farfetch was a great incubator of
Yeah.
ideas. It gave you, especially, and some of the brands, possibilities to explore, discover how to create omni experiences. And now you come to this conclusion that it's probably a good idea to focus on one thing. You have an idea now, you have a startup of your own that you will pursue, which I really want to understand more in depth and share with the world what that is. But if we start with like, what are the insights that you are bringing in to this startup, and what are backgrounds in terms of how the evolution of the store has been? Could you speak to that a little bit, and then we'll cover the Omni experience?
When we see omnichannel being brought up, a lot of times it falls within kind of like two camps.
Yeah.
One camp is really looking at performance of channels and looking at a merchandising approach, which is, obviously fair enough. But I think that's quite common. Is this function being a merchandising of how much stock in which SKU do we put within each channels, and forecast within each channels. The problem with that is that that's not done with what we were just discussing earlier, which is a view of where the purchase intent comes from. So therefore, it's really about a fulfillment play more than anything. And it's not about where do we place the products to trigger the best intents and then fulfill them later on. So that's an interesting situation. Then the other meaning of omnichannel is often from a product standpoint. So, and when I say product, I do not mean fashion product. I mean a technical product, which is within our tech ecosystem. What are the initiatives that are digital initiatives that are on our website and in our store, and sometimes it includes just both, but just not meshed in, not intertwined, but actually just store on one side and e-commerce on the one side, and that's like your omni-channel digital lead. And it's not necessarily that actually the journeys are so intertwined. So there's that case scenario. But then the other is, let's look at mapping our full customer journey, and then, on there, understanding how our customers flow through this, how they interact with us across channels, and map out where do we need our technical product to support this journey. But what I've realized through all those years of research in the space is that a lot of the initiatives then look at what happens post-purchase. So there's so much, and you had because there's so much happening with click and collect. The number of times that I've heard click and collect is like a holy grail to be achieved for an omnichannel approach. And one thing is in one case, on one end, it's a bit sad that it's so hard to achieve click and collect. But with the cost of logistics and courier, etc., it actually, interestingly, is not necessarily beneficial cost-wise for retailers. So that's why, even though it is helpful for customers, sometimes there's actually not always like a price change to compared to delivering to you versus to a store, which also from a sustainability angle is actually kind of crazy and very, very, very sad. But anyway, so click and collect, this is a thing. But then the other initiatives are really about how do we optimize our inventory and our fulfillment. So I feel like Michelle really talked about in that way. And then another path is the loyalty play. So omnichannel being, okay, we will link your purchase in the store to your purchase online and make sure that those loyalty components are together. Again, feels like quite normal as it should, but this is one way to look at it. But what I think is something that we really haven't seen much is what's happening pre-purchase. So, and I think like we have those stores being this black box of, yeah, the customers go in, they interact with your brand, they interact with your product, they interact with your sales associates, but we don't know about it.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really where we're playing with Marty AI, our product. That's the space we're playing in, because ultimately, what I think is, and to go back then to your last question, what I think is the ultimate new model is to say, hey, let's maximize the investments that we do in physical retail, that we do either way, that right now are really looked at in silo from a P&L standpoint, and let's ensure that we put the store in the right place to have a unified online and offline experience that can then resolve our challenges that we have on the e-commerce side. Because if people have tried on your products, if they've interacted physically with your products, they're less likely to return the products. If we have a better understanding of them, if we know more what they're looking for, then we sell more relevant fix to them. We surface also online more relevant product recommendations and content. And so therefore, we do not waste more ad money with things that are just like hitting them, and that are not relevant to them. So my view is, let's be more capital efficient across our whole business by leveraging the store and the data that we can get out of the store and putting it really where it belongs within our whole omnichannel experience. So that's really where my head's at.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've thought of a lot? Like, how do you look at that with TouchTag?
Yes, I have been
Because
struggling
you guys
with
put
that
those
idea a lot.
physical screens as well in the store.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I want to dig deeper into how to actually capture, that type of interactions, that type of insights of consumer behavior in the shop pre-purchase. That is, as far as I know, not that many type of solutions that can do it very effectively. So I would like to hear your thoughts on where are the opportunities. But before going there, obviously we are both on the side of the store needs to transition into and transform into more a digital connected world, right? I think it's the store's job, responsibility to connect itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it's hard because we usually come from an e-com perspective. We go to the e-commerce managers and they try to squeeze in digitalization to the store. While the store managers, not always, but still in many of the cases, cares more about should it be golden or brownish, the merchandising, what type of posters and where, instead of thinking what does it actually mean for the future of the store, of my store? How do I connect it? And then request the digital teams to create these solutions.
And that's why, so at Marty AI, what we're working on, actually won't talk about how we capture the data, but what we're working on is really looking at going from the data to the conversion. Because I think that what retailers need to think of, obviously, as a retailer myself, is how do we put solutions in our business that go across rather than divide, that go across retail and marketing and tech, or in the whole case of wholesale, that go across uh, design, production, buying. So things that are unifiers, rather than siloed solutions that are very specific to one little thing and that create this digital threat. So I think that's part of what is a good like digital transformation strategy from a leader standpoint. The type of things that we're very curious about at Marty AI is that what do people not like? That's just a crazy question that we're like, okay, we know what people like online with their first party cookies, but what do they not like and why? And I think what's been really interesting is at Farfetch being able to POC so many different types of technology to capture that offline data and really looking at beside the interaction with the product, what is very interesting is the context, the why, the what, the who, being able to understand what is the context of what people are doing, what are they liking. And so to click into that, it's what are people shopping for? What occasions? What moments of their life? Who do they want to be? Who are they shopping for? What are they trying on? Of those things that they're trying on, what did they like? What did they not like? And why? And so those things I think is really rich data that goes beyond interactions. And it's really a new world that we live in because, with Gen AI, there's all this subjectivity and contextualization of data that we really were not able to play in a few years ago, right? Things were so much more structured and and liked this richness. So that's really what we are looking at. But yeah.
I mean, I have to play a little bit detective here, but it sounds it it very much sounds like this is qualitative data that you are looking into capture
But how
when you
do we
say
make it qualitative quantitative?
exactly. So I would assume that's why you have an A and I in the name of the company to some extent. But it I would assume that this is to some extent requires you to listen in on the events and happenings, and I think that is a very interesting aspect of trying to digitalize and quantify these type of insights. What type of, I mean, once it goes through that process, what does it unlock? What can you do
Yeah,
then?
yeah, great question. Well, I think so. So what we're really looking at unlocking is the personalization and the retargeting, because we really think about impact, right? Like coming from SaaS, I always like put my feet in my shoes. I don't know, and myself in the shoes of the of my customers, being the retailers, and thinking about how do we drive impact, how do we drive results, and be clear on what those objectives are before we do the work, right? um, and I think that's always how I've tried to then run projects at Farfetch as well, is like really being clear on those results and driving them forward. And for me, the personalization impact is pretty nuts because there's actually 40% of revenue of e-commerce that comes from personalization and retargeting. It's insane. I think a lot of people do not know that, right? So that's pretty insane. And then actually, like there's like 80% of retail leaders that says that consumers spend more when the experience is personalized. Um, and there's I'll stop with my stats for a second after this, but there's I think over 56% of consumers that say that they will become repeat buyers after a personalized experience. So when you put those facts together, you know that like that's absolutely critical part of the business for a retailer. And for an online-based retailer, right? Because personalization doesn't exist for physical retail. That it straight up just doesn't exist. And so our feathers is like any uplift anywhere that we can drive closer to this e-commerce experience and this impact of personalization is an absolute win for retailers, right? So that's what we're playing. I was talking to you about the retailer side of things, but and I'm sorry that I'm too passionate about this, but as a consumer, I think that the consumer side of thing is also what's super fascinating, because we just do not want things that are irrelevant to us. So I don't know about you. Like, tell me, as a consumer,
I
like,
like them.
feel
The
annoyed
more
sometimes.
relevant, the better. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's just a waste of everyone's time and attention.
exactly, exactly. And now people are used to being retargeted and they're used to personalization, right? They expect it, but they're not necessarily happy with the quality of it. And I think it's 76% of customers that get actually frustrated when the experience is not personalized. And there's 71% that expect the experience to be personalized. So the reality is like, so we want this, right? But we want it on our own terms. We want to see what's going to be helpful to us. So if with a physical store, that means that like what you interacted with in the stores, the information that you gave, the things that you left behind, all of that, you're expecting that to be part of your online experience. You want to see on Instagram, like, what is the thing that like were looking at in the store? What is the thing that goes well with what you were looking at in the store? And kind of, have that cohesion. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. So you basically mean that the recommendations, the product recommendation would be able to do afterwards would be much more relevant, and being
yeah,
able to understand that this is a dress or jeans that you actually don't like would also be part of a smarter
exactly. I don't want to
recommendation.
see it again. I don't want to
It,
see it
that
again.
actually happens a lot of time, that I just look at a product, show it to someone like that, I don't want this, and then that's what I keep getting all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, do you also imagine, uh, like within the scope of personalization, that the messaging to you, it could be on an ad, but it could also be in an email, that would be also personalized, what you write, as if someone would have wrote it now with generative AI, or is that, I mean, any of your
Yeah,
thoughts?
no, that's a really good point.
Mhm.
Look, I think like especially with Gen AI, we really need to make sure with both Gen AI and with customer data, the number one thing is to not be creepy, right?
Yeah.
You gotta be normal. But thank God, we try to be reasonable and realistic. But yeah, like it can be personalized. So like if you're looking for, I'm gonna use a man example, but if you're looking like for formal casual workwear that is comfortable and that's what you're looking for in the store, then why not like changing the copy within ads to actually be referencing this? Or if you're going on holiday and you're shopping for holiday looks, there's a lot of newsletter out there that are about that exact same topic. But sometimes you send this to somebody who's not taking holiday this summer,
Exactly.
or you send it to somebody who actually wants to go on holiday and see those things. And we know that they've been in the shop and looking at like raffia bags or men espadrilles, but the other person, they haven't, and they were looking at like a lot of workwear and black and gray and neutrals. So to your points, ultimately we can see a world where we speak to you about things that matter to you because of what we've seen you doing, what you've shared around, and all of that. So it's fascinating to see, like, how far can we take this into the future?
And how fast?
How fast? Yes, also,
When do you think the first experiences with this personalized possibility would happen?
Oh, I mean, in the case of our product, I cannot share, unfortunately. I cannot share, it's very confidential. But I think that when we look at the markets in general, things are moving quite quickly, slow and quick. It's always the same. Like I say this about everything in life. It always feels slow and quick, right?
Mhm.
It's quicker than you would think, but also slower than you would want.
Yes.
And right, like I feel like we've been talking about this, the future store of the future, to use the far-fetched terms, or the future version of the store for many, many, many years. Um, and, and the innovation has been a bit slow. I think there's been just like very incremental, and there's been so many companies in that space that have done, new cool things, but they haven't really been able to like scale. Um, and I think what's so interesting of the times we live in is that with Gen AI, we're actually able to move so much quicker with a lot of those things, both in terms of the development, in terms of the operational processes, in terms of the actual, underlying technology, and in terms of the scaling. So that's, I think, not just thing just for my business, but across the whole industry, like that we see so many things moving so quickly now. So it's definitely an interesting time to be in, and I think that just speaking in terms of technology providers, like I think that there's a big difference between having a product that works and is a good product, and then the ability to scale it, and to really drive uh, penetration within the market. Having been on this, on the scaling side of things, I think that it's something that is a very, yeah, it is a very different know-how. Um, yeah, so I think I feel confident that we're my team and I, we have all the right different know-how paired, but I think it's difficult as an innovator in general speaking, and I think that's why we've seen a lot of solutions not scaling, because it's difficult to have both within your
Okay.
team from the beginning.
So you won't say anything about if it's going to be 1, 2, 3 years for a beta?
No, I cannot
No?
say. I cannot say. Definitely not 1 to 3 years, Dennis.
No?
Things are, the demand is too important to be waiting so long for a beta. I think nowadays we have to move really, really quickly, right? As you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
like I feel like your team is shipping out new features and new innovation like every month. And
Uh,
that's the expectation. I think people want to see newness and they want to see results,
mhm.
and they want to just see that forward momentum really quickly.
We actually have a or velocity of at least 2, but usually to 3 to 4 shippings per month at TouchTech.
Mhm.
So we actually try to move quite quickly. I wanna.
Yeah, I know. Like I feel like I love the videos that your team is doing as well, on the AI topic. It's been really fun following your guys' journey.
Mhm. That's fine. I want to just touch upon the creepiness because this concept, uh, for sure, one of the biggest hinders will be the how to address the creepiness, and there is no way around it. If you want to be able to personalize it to extent what you just explained, we literally need to hear qualitative feedback and record it to some extent. I guess it has to be opt-in, or is there a way you think to be okay with aggregated or non-opt-in type of feedback collection?
Yes. So I think that's definitely a fascinating topic, right? I feel like all the laws have changed so much over the past 5 years. So I've worked a lot on this topic, obviously shipping multiple products, handling customer data, and what we found through the research is that it's really important to tell people what you're doing and to ask them for their consent and be clear and straightforward and explain to them what is the value exchange. So 90% of customers that are actually willing to give their customer data for personalized experience, which is a number that really surprised me, actually. I thought it was going to be much lower. but it's about explaining well, I mean, the number doesn't say it's about explaining, but personally I think that it's really about being clear about that value exchange. Like, we're going to ask you this, please give us your consent, can we get your email address and your consent to do this for you, to personalize your experience, to show things that are more relevant to you and help your digital journey. So I think based on that, it's really about that transparency, and that's where people, uh, don't necessarily always make the right decision. It's because once the trust is broken, it is broken. You need to show people that you will keep their data safe, that you will use it for the purpose that you're saying you're using it for, and and not really like be hiding anything. So I think that's what's really interesting. And I see a lot of companies that kind of like take a different approach, that, infer information from other sources of data, or, do more of that listening that is not necessarily known by the customer. And that's definitely, I think, not the way to go. I think building that trust for the solution, but also for the retailer, that trust is intrinsic to the relationship between the retailer and the customer. And that's what makes a customer want to come back. It's a trust for the data, but it's across everything else. I want to trust that I can, rely on your logistics, that I can rely on your customer service, that I can rely on your product. So all of that, I think it's very important.
I
Yeah.
agree. If you, it's hard to build trust if you mess it up once. I also feel that, back in the days, just giving your email or phone number on internet, that would just be unimaginable for most. Nowadays, you probably just don't matter or care at all what Google and Facebook and so on collects by you. I think we're in a stage where if people would feel uncomfortable with knowing that the machine is listening in and creating personalization, but I wonder if it's not just a matter of time and experiencing the benefits of having that. I personally would hope also that within the future vision of a store, e-commerce unification, that understanding pre-purchase feedback also yields more about like a assisted AI experience that helps you with overall, not just one product at a time recommendation, but overall like guidance of trends and this type of more complex suggestions, recommendations.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think I want to touch on that. Like, we're not suggesting exactly that, like, well, I mean, some of our solutions are doing listening in the stores, which is not what we're suggesting. But I think that like one of the things that you mentioned just made me think of the fact that like technology always needs to be there to enhance experience, right? And not replace. And I think that's quite important. And maybe one of the different things that we can end on is that at the end of the day, technology is to augment and to enhance what is already experienced by humans, right? And so when we think of the store and this replacement of the store, should we have like, virtual 3D rooms and no physical store or no interaction with people, all of that? It's not really the direction that I see the store of the future being, because I think the store of the future is, how do we enhance this human interaction and this physical interaction of the product with technology? And to your point, how do we enhance the digital experience later on with the information that we have and with the technology? So it's a journey that we're on together, the consumer and the retailer, permitted and supported by technology rather than technology taking the lead.
I think that is great final words, Ines. I really hope next time.
Of our recording with this, it does feel like a good conclusion.
It definitely is a great conclusion, but I really hope next time we meet up, hopefully for the pod, that we can actually explain and give some insights and more examples about how it actually would work.
Yes.
Let's leave it on a cliffhanger for now. But
Yes. Okay.
it will be very interesting to hear about how it goes. And once you have a beta out in the world,
Yep.
let's do one more pod again.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me here, Dennis. I really appreciate it. I always love chatting with you. And yes, I look forward to our next episode.
Thank you. Amazing. And likewise. Take care, Ines.
Bye.